Good morning and welcome. Glad you are here. It is Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan. Jamie will rejoin us next week after a restful vacation. Frank, our executive producer, and Parker, our technical producer, are here with me. As always, good to see you boys. And if you want to get involved, especially now because Frank has another beef. This week, Frank has been unleashed and likes to get his grievances aired.
I do.
855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Morning, boys. How are we today? Okay,
Doing well.
Thanks. Let's move on.
I just answered.
All right, everybody's doing fine.
Give me a slight delay. We're all great.
Yeah, good. What's your I am coming off a day. I'm not going to get into all the details because it's very early in the morning. Let's just say I had an invasive medical test yesterday that left me feeling violated and made me very much more sympathetic to ladies and stirrups at their yes. So we'll leave it at that. But I am here and I am ready to go. But yesterday, and I don't know why this came up, but Frank, you brought something up, and it seemed like
tell you why.
Got you a little revved up.
So I had a new coffee mug yesterday. We were talking about it.
That's right.
Right? You might have heard us in between breaks if you're on the live stream. And Brian said, "Wow, Frank, that's a fancy coffee mug you got there." And I said, "Well, Brian, thanks for noticing. We just went to my parents' house, and we got the rest of our, would you call it china?
Yes.
Our tableware? I don't know.
Yes, china. That looked like china to me. That was not a Kmart coffee mug.
It was from Crate and
cup.
Barrel. It's nice.
Okay, it's very nice.
Yeah.
Yes, your table.
Here's the deal. When you go and get married and you put stuff on your wedding registry, everything comes in like sets of 8.
Yes.
So I don't need 90% of that as I'm in my 20s living in an apartment.
You're not having giant dinner parties?
I'm not having
where you're having 3-course and then coffee
You're not
service?
having giant dinner parties. So there's like 2 or 3 boxes of stuff in my parents' basement for years. Going on 4 years now of stuff that I just don't need right now. And as I'm going through it this past weekend, I'm like, what is this? As my wife's next to me, she goes, "Oh, don't you remember? So-and-so got that for us." I was like, "No, this is ours?"
Mine.
Some stuff I was like, why is this even down here? Why don't we have it in our place? And then some stuff, as I'm pulling out plate after plate after plate, I'm like, why the hell do we need all this?
Well, obviously you're going to have the whole show over for dinner. So
which I will.
Now you
because
have
I
enough,
like you guys. But most people I want out of my house.
No, I don't blame you. Yeah. It's amazing. Now, how long have you been married?
3 years. Going
3
on
years.
4.
All right. Very recent. Registries have changed so much. Saturday, I will have been married 34 years, which is amazing. Because the old joke is I could have killed her and been out of jail by now. But 34 years ago, when you registered for, and it's always been that way, you go and if you're not clear on what that is, when a couple's getting married, they go around to certain stores and they make a list of things that they would like. Because people are always like, "Oh, what do you want for a gift?" Well, here's a list, and it makes it easy. And there's usually a wide range of prices because some people maybe want to go. A lot of times people will go in with other couples or other family members, and they'll get something a little bigger and all of that. But when I registered, my wife and I, it was a lot of china and crystal. So we have a 12-piece. We have service for 12 in Waterford Crystal in 3 different size glasses.
12?
Plus many. Yes, Frank, you had to have 12. Gentlemen,
let me ask you this question.
Because you always thought you were going to have a big dining room, which we did for a while, and we used it, I don't know, a couple times.
I was going to ask you, do you even own a table to seat 12?
Not anymore. No, not anymore. At one point we did. And like I said, I think we used it twice for a big, giant holiday dinner. No, now we're lucky to, we do occasionally bring out, like, here's the Waterford we use so far. We have a couple rocks glasses that we use, a couple Irish coffee glasses, and some whiskey sniffers. or whiskey taster glasses.
Yeah.
That we use on the reg. Everything else is in boxes downstairs. We have a 12-piece place setting of beautiful Noritake china that I don't think have ever used, or maybe we've used once or twice in 34 years. We also now downstairs have my aunt's china and crystal, which was supposed to go to Molly, which Molly does not want. We have some of my, I think either we have it or somebody else took it, my mom's china and crystal. And here's the problem. You can't resell it because young people don't want all that stuff.
No.
Molly is starting to get the gifts for her showers, and it's no crystal, it's no china, there's all kind of crap. I told you guys yesterday it came to the house, a towel warmer, which made Parker insane.
Dude, that is insane. I cannot believe
Why?
that is the softest. What do you mean,
Parker?
why? You don't
Soft.
need a warm towel?
You don't need it, Parker, but
What? Hold on
wouldn't
a
it
second.
be nice to have it? I
Can
don't
I-
know.
No.
Go ahead.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
I don't think Brian's daughter is worried about someone calling her soft.
No.
She's
Or
not
bougie.
an
I
offensive
believe that.
lineman in high school getting yelled at by her O-line coach.
And I would imagine my future son-in-law likes a nice cozy towel. But
Of course
Parker,
he does.
To Parker's point, I had the same reaction because
very
the gift was sent here. Not unnecessary, because my first reaction was, oh my God, she forgot where she came from. And my wife's like, yeah, have you met her? And so we were joking about her being bougie. And then my wife said, well, we registered for some just fun stuff. And I'm thinking back, I go, what? What fun? You didn't register for fun stuff 34 years ago. I think the most outrageous was a little Cuisinart food processor that we still have and I still use 34 years later.
There you go.
Shout out Cuisinart. You're bringing you're making
Back
a
in the
quality
day.
product. Yeah, that stuff lasted. But yes, I mean, so it came and I immediately was like, oh, it's for robes and towels and they can be nice and toasty warm. And I'm like, okay.
Here's what's
Well,
going to happen. You're going to be over there, and you're going to use it once.
Oh, it won't be in a bathroom
And you're
where I
gonna
have
love
access
it.
to.
You're going to use it one time, and you're going to love it.
Yeah,
I'm
you are.
sure it's lovely. I'm to the point now where I'm very laissez-faire in a lot of things.
Mhm.
If somebody wants a warm towel, good for you. I'm glad. You registered for it. Somebody saw it. You didn't put a gun to anybody's head to make them buy it. They went, oh, this sounds like a fun gift. This is what I want to give them for the shower. And now they have it. It sits on it's white ceramic, sits on a nice beechwood base, and it'll, and all their towel. But here's the problem. You can only use a towel once then. I use my towel, and I probably shouldn't leave it this long, but a few days, maybe a week, use the towel.
Yeah, that's how
I would agree.
I think.
Yeah. So
fine.
what am I going to
Couple
put
days.
a damp towel in there and then start steaming? Now I'm making soup out of my gunk that's on the towel. That sounds awful.
That's a pretty sight there, Mr. Noonan.
Well, good morning. Enjoy your coffee.
855-752-4842. What's is it crazy, or is it the dumbest item that you put on your wedding registry?
Or maybe just the most luxurious, the one that was, outside the lines. Could be considered crazy, could be considered dumb, could be considered bougie. I'm trying to think what else, because I saw on there, I saw the registry, but I don't get involved in all that.
You don't? Oh, I'm nosy. I
Well, I
love to
looked
see
at
what
it.
people put on it.
I'm
I
looking through
looked
a
at it.
registry right now because I just RSVP'd for a wedding over the
Ooh,
weekend.
give it to us, Parker. What do
Yeah,
we got?
what do they got? They
Yeah.
got anything good?
I mean, it's all kitchen stuff. There is a cozy table lamp. Sustainable mood is
A
what this
cozy
says.
table lamp?
Yes.
Like for your dinner table?
Like a mood
Um,
lamp?
No, it's a mood lamp. Yes. Here,
Okay.
I'll get up in here and
That's not helping us.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like accent lighting.
It's
Kinda
sets
like
the
a lava
mood of
lamp.
The room. Yeah, a little bit like that. Yeah.
Waste of a
That-
wedding registry item. Continue.
Well,
Yeah, but what if somebody only wants, I don't know how much, what's that run, Parker?
just 48.88.
All right, if somebody wants to give it as a shower gift, $49 is not a bad
It's
amount
not,
for a
but I
shower
feel
gift.
like you're running out of ideas.
Oh, certainly. Well, judging by how many cups are in here, yes.
That's okay. Thank you. That's another thing I want to get to.
Cups.
My advice, if there are any young people
Or if
at
you know any young
6:16
people,
in the morning listening
Yes.
to this show,
or your children are about to
Actually,
just
this
got
could-
engaged.
this could just be for
Yeah.
Parker.
Give
You're
it to me,
going to
Frank.
feel the need to
Yeah.
put on every type of cocktail glass on your wedding registry. Rocks glasses, Collins glasses, red wine glasses, white wine glasses. You do not need all of them.
No.
And if you do put them on your list, you only need up max of 4 each.
Right.
But they all
Yeah.
come in sets of 8. So I don't need 8 Collins glasses. The rocks glasses will get to put to
Rocks
use.
glasses you use. I would say
Dude.
rocks glasses and just a generic wine glass.
The
Unless
white
you're
wine
a
glasses-
sommelier. What's the difference between a white wine and a red wine glass?
White wine is smaller. Red one's like a deeper bowl
So you
to
get
like
more of the
aerate.
aroma.
I don't
Does it
know,
aerate?
dude.
You know what you
You
should
did wine
get if you want to
tasting,
aerate?
Frank.
Get
You
yourself
should-
one of those
Went once.
decanters.
You went once in Paris, though.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I've been to wine tastings. I don't know what the glassware.
I made this joke
Talk to me
yesterday.
about beer
while,
glasses. I know beer glasses.
Oh, you
See,
do.
there
know
you
that,
go.
yeah.
and I made this joke
don't have
yesterday while driving cars because I was driving a car that was 10 years older than the one I currently drive, and I said this is like going to wine tasting for the first time, where they give you a glass of wine, you're not used to drinking it, and they go, "And how do you like this $100 glass of wine?" And you go, "It's good." And then they go, "What about that one?" And it's like barefoot. And you go, "That one's good too."
Exactly.
I don't know.
I don't know. What do you want?
It's good.
want
It
from
does
me?
the trick.
Oh,
It is
yeah,
what it
tastes
is.
fine.
Yeah, I can't remember. There's some glassware on her registry. There were some, I think, some dishes, but maybe 8 was the top or 4. I don't know.
Mhm.
There's, she did take one set of, for some reason. Well, I know the reason. My mom gave it to us because she had always wanted it. There's a Thanksgiving china. And last year, since Molly hosted, she said, "Can I have this china?" And we're like, "Yes, please take it.
Take it.
You take
It
it.
is all yours.
You take it, because that means we're coming to your place for Thanksgiving. That'll be lovely. So go ahead. All right. When we come back, data centers. Oh, man, everybody's worried about data centers. It's on every ballot. People are debating it. What if there was an option for a data center that was clean, didn't take up all the land near you, and you didn't have to worry about it? It was somewhere else that wouldn't bother anybody. Parker showed me this story. I think it's a great one. We're going to get to that on the other side. And I want your answer to, would the option of having data centers in the ocean make them more attractive to you? 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. This is Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan, and you are listening, as always, to the Civic Media Network.
From Lake Superior to Lake Michigan, this is Wisconsin's Morning Conversation. Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Welcome. Glad you are here. 855-75-CIVIC is how you get a hold of us. If you call in, be nice to Parker, because to get to me, you got to get through him. 855-752-4842. Would the option of having data centers in the ocean make them more attractive to you? Because, there's so many things to debate when it comes to data centers, and we hear about it all the time. It seems like it's monopolizing the news. It's either the current administration or data centers. That's what people are talking about, especially here in Wisconsin, where you've got cities voting on these and public hearings, and are there secret deals? We're always hearing about it. And then we hear about mostly how much power they need, how much carbon pollution they create, how much energy, water they're going to use, what they're going to do with all the waste, all of this. Okay. So Parker, who is young and idealistic and cares about the planet and the people on it, sends me this yesterday, and I found it fascinating. So there is a new company that wants to, the company is Panthalasa, and they are out of Vancouver, Washington. Garth Sheldon Coulson is the CEO. He wants to address the problems of data centers, the land, the energy, the carbon footprint, with a new source of energy, wave energy. I know the president doesn't like wind energy. We haven't heard him weigh in on wave energy, which is the ocean. It's basically it. They're going to put these things in the ocean. Now, I'll explain how they're going to do it because I think it is fascinating. And from what I read yesterday, I don't really see a problem with it. But I want to hear from you, too. Listen to some of this and then let me know if this is more attractive to you for data centers. So he said, Garth Sheldon Colson, the ocean is really unlimited in terms of how much energy is available. It will really be the cheapest energy on the planet. So he compared Panthalasa's test model, the Ocean 2, to a floating hydroelectric dam. He says as it goes up and down with the waves, it causes the water that's in the tube to be forced up to the top. Once it's in the ball, now you have to picture, it's kind of like, I don't know, like it looks almost like an upside down bowl with a tube coming out of the top of it. The water is forced through a turbine, the turbine spins, and that's what makes the electricity. So using a model of the latest design, the Ocean 3, he explained the most surprising part. There is no anchor and no cables. So it is a self-propelled system that is not tethered to the ocean floor. It's like a little Roomba, except it's enormous. So I don't have a Roomba, but I know what a Roomba is. They just zip around. Now, I can already hear critics going, well, aren't they going to get in the way of shipping lanes and blah, blah, blah? Maybe, but it could be figured out. That doesn't seem like the most pressing question because, quite frankly, the oceans are ginormous. There's the biggest obvious understatement of, I think, the week so far. Ooh, did you hear what Brian said? Hot take. He said the oceans are enormous. That guy, he goes out on a limb. He's not afraid of what people think. He'll say what we're all thinking. Yeah. So just think, there's no cable to bring power back to the shore either. So in essence, these are floating data centers. They generate power from the waves, process AI computing tasks on the spot, and send the answers by satellite. When you deploy many of our systems, he said, they work together basically as a data center. So we think of it as a really good alternative to data centers on land. Now, again, I'm not an engineer. I'm not an environmental scientist. I don't see a difference because the land mass is limited, especially when you go into some of these smaller communities. So if you are able to offshore these, you're not going to lose all the jobs. You will lose some, but these things still have to be manufactured and maintained, and they have to, somebody has to be monitoring the programs and all of that stuff. So there still will be jobs created. It's just not taking up farmland. It's not causing your power costs to skyrocket, which is one of the biggest concerns. So he says Panthalasa has all of the private funding it needs because it offers AI companies a quicker, cleaner way to get power than building data centers on land. Construction of the Ocean 3 is already underway. Sheldon Colson expects them to be operating offshore by around August of this year. These are the advantages. Clean, no fuel, no land use, no getting in the way of other activities on land, very fast to scale. Now, that sounds pretty good. So it means somebody's going to try to squash this because any good revolutionary idea that is going to cut into somebody else's money gets squashed. I hope this does not. I would like to do a little more. I'd like to see a couple in action so they can say, yes, now we've gone from the models and the testing and the theories to actually having, if by August we start seeing them and they work, what's the drawback? Now, I'm sure ocean activists would say, well, we know what the drawback is. The drawback is that you're taking up valuable ocean space. And I would say, well, yes. Which is more impactful to people on a daily basis? Is it that we have floating data centers in the ocean, or that we take up hundreds of acres of land in your county that then is going to be an eyesore, going to raise everybody's energy rates? We don't know the long-term effects of what a data center in your town will have. whether it's environmental, health, anything else. So why not try something new? That's where you young people come in, Parker. I am counting on the young generation to get these kind of things done. My generation, we're out. You want to put us out to pasture anyway. So you guys are in charge. Get this done. Get things taken care of. All right. Are shorter lines at the airport worth more funding for ICE? That is your question. We will talk about that and so much more when we return on Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan. This is the Civic Media Network.
Now back to more of Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. This is Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan. Jamie will be back next Monday. Are shorter lines at the airport worth more funding for ICE? Is it worth more for you to see ICE funded or to go through an airport line quicker? 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. So this is a twofold story, and I want to remind you, part of the reason we're in this fix is because of Mike Johnson and House Republicans. But I'll get to that and why that's important. But first of all, Mark Wayne Mullin, who is the new Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, warned yesterday that long security lines could reappear at airports starting next month because the agency doesn't have enough money to continue to pay its employees through May. I find that very hard to believe since DHS still shut down. I know. People are going to say, Brian, don't you know that? Yes, I do. I also know I know whose fault it is that it's still shut down. Anyway, they've been shut down since mid-February. The resulting lapse in paychecks prompted a lot of TSA agents, as you know, to call in sick, air quotes, to quit and go find other jobs. All of that. So lines, we were reporting for a while right before spring break, lines were out the door. And in an effort to kind of curry some favor with the voters who were trying to leave on spring break, the president directed DHS to use funds from the Republicans' big domestic policy package, a.k.a. the Big Beautiful Bill. And take that money and pay TSA officers and other agency staffers. So Mark Wayne Mullin was on Fox and Friends, and he said that the money's going to run out. The agency is drawing on a $10 billion fund created by the bill, which as of April 19th has a little less than $1.4 billion remaining, according to the Office of Management and Budget Data. So there was, he comes out, he says this, everybody starts to panic. What's going to happen? Well, the Republicans want to get some funding pushed through. We know the Democrats don't want to fund it because the Republicans are trying to tie this to the SAVE Act. And we also know that ICE had already been funded. ICE was all set with the Big Beautiful Bill, so they didn't need money. Democrats said, we will pass a funding bill to get everything open, but we want you to hold back on ICE funding. We don't want that included in any plan, and we want to be able to talk about how we can reform ICE, different oversight, those kind of things. Things that were very simple and very common sense. The Republicans at first said no. Then, last month, you remember, the Democrats, the Republicans in the Senate, bipartisan, they passed a bill that would go to the House that said, all right, we're funding everything. We're going to open it. You'll be able to pay the TSA agents immediately. Everybody's going to get paid. And we're going to hold off on any extra funding for ICE until we can get this settled. It was all set. The Democrats did it before their spring break. They sent it over to the House. Mike Johnson would not even call it to the floor for a vote. He said no, because it doesn't include funding for ICE. We don't want it. Take it back. We're not going to do it. And then they went on vacation for 2 weeks. Well, now we're in the predicament we're in. And this morning at about 3:30, the Senate took the first steps in a new effort to reopen the Department of Homeland Security, voting to adopt a budget plan that would fund ICE and Border Patrol over Democratic objections and sending it to the House. What do you think the chances are this one's going to get a call for a vote? I think pretty high. Because Mike Johnson, who just yesterday, with his eyes darting around like he was scared that somebody was coming after him, like a bobcat was stalking him on a turkey hunt, that was a callback, Parker.
Yeah.
he said, "Oh no, we're going to win in November." He looks terrified, and I don't believe that funding TSA or funding ICE is going to help him. But that's beside the point. So we know that this is happening. The Senate has passed this. The budget process now here. The Republicans are now trying to fund the two immigration enforcement agencies through the complicated, time-consuming process called budget reconciliation. This is a maneuver that they also used to pass Donald Trump's package of tax and spending last year with no Democratic votes. It is a very difficult process, but it's a process nonetheless. It only requires a simple majority in the Senate. It bypasses filibuster rules that require Republicans to find 60 votes on most bills when they only hold 53 seats. But it also comes with increased scrutiny from the Senate parliamentarian and a long, open-ended series of amendment votes at the beginning and end of the process. So this is not a done deal that means they've got another, they said maybe one more paycheck for TSA and Homeland Security, and then they're out of luck again. So the Senate has already voted on a bipartisan basis to reopen the rest of the department. But Republican leaders in the House say they won't take that bill up until the Senate shows progress toward funding ICE and Border Patrol as well. Now, the $70 billion budget resolution, billion with a B, would fund the two agencies for 3 years. Coincidentally, that's through the rest of Trump's term. Now, Republicans in both the Senate and the House have pushed to add other items. Here we go, friends. This was where the open-ended amendment debates come in. They're pushing to add other items, including money for farmers, which, again, farmers being used as pawns, because who's going to vote against money for farmers? If you're an American and you eat, you're gonna want to support farmers. But here's the thing. They also want to include money for the voting bill. And they want to include the SAVE Act, the voting bill, whatever you want to call it, in this reconciliation. That's going to be the time-consuming debate because while Democrats don't have the majority, they don't need too many defectors to come over. Now, you got to count Fetterman is probably going to vote with the Republicans because that's what he does now. You don't know what Susan Collins is going to do, and Markowski, the ones who always talk a big game and then do go the other way. But this is what the Republicans are saying because they're also thinking this is their last gasp. If they don't get the SAVE Act bill pushed through with this, they're not going to have it before November. And they know, unlike Mike Johnson, who is confident yet terrified, a lot of these Republicans in the Congress see the writing on the wall and know that it's not going to bode well for them in November. So Democrats are responding. Of course, there will be strongly worded letters. We will see what those are. But they say any funding bill for Homeland Security should place restraints on federal immigration authorities, including better identification for federal officers and more use of judicial warrants. Those are among some of the requests that they have. All very common sense things, in my opinion, to go along with this. Now, in March, and I mentioned this before, but because you're going to hear a lot, and you've heard a lot about how this is a Democratic shutdown. It's all the Democrats' fault. And if you follow the timeline, the people who've prolonged this shutdown are not Democrats. They are, in fact, the Republicans. Because in March, the Senate passed the legislation by voice vote that would separate out ICE and Border Patrol and fund the rest of the department, including the TSA, because that was when the lines were getting so long. Republicans in the House refused to even consider it, saying they wouldn't support any bill that didn't include money for immigration enforcement. And again, I know some of this seems repetitive, but it is always worth repeating. ICE had already been funded in the big, beautiful bill. ICE and Border Patrol had their money. They didn't need money at this point. The rest of the Department of Homeland Security needed the money and needed to be reopened, and the Democrats were willing to do it. The Republicans in the Senate and the Democrats in the Senate worked together. They figured out what adults like to call a compromise, and then Mike Johnson unilaterally decides he's not even going to bring it to the floor. And then they go on recess. So during that recess, Thune and Johnson, they announced that they would pursue a two-track approach, pass the Senate bill that includes most of the department's funding through regular order, and use the party line bill to pass ICE and CBP funding. Weeks later, though, as you know, Johnson has still not said when the House will take up the Senate's legislation that would fund the rest of the department. So now we are in another wait-and-see mode. We've got all these people who work that aren't getting paid, which, think about it. Do you want to work if you're not getting paid? I love my job, and I wouldn't do it for free. I don't think anybody should have to work for free. Working for free is called slavery or an internship. And really, we've outlawed a lot of internships, too, where you work for free. So nobody should have to work for free. And I don't blame any of these TSA agents for calling in sick. I know they are all entitled to back pay once things open. But back pay only helps later. Back pay doesn't help you pay your rent this month. Doesn't help you buy your kids groceries this month. Back pay is fine, but let's not make that the whole thing. Well, they're going to get their money anyway. Yeah, but put yourself in that position. Anyway, I understand them looking for other jobs too. I also understand them being cranky. Because if I do come to work and I realize every day, man, I'm working for nothing, and I got to put up with all these people who are trying to bring in, that's not a carry-on, sir. That bag is bigger than your kids. That's not a carry-on. I understand them being grumpy too. But I also want us to direct our ire at the right party and the right side and the right people, and not to believe the gaslighting misinformation that's coming out that blames this all on Democrats. Remember who has the majority in the House, who has the majority in the Senate, who runs the administration. It's all one party, friends. So to blame the other party for any sort of shutdown, you're just blaming a party for not giving in to your demands when you are not willing to do. Not everybody, the Senate did compromise. But if the House will not compromise, it's all on Mike Johnson. It's all on the Republicans. So we'll see what happens. Again, we don't know what Mike Johnson will do. This just passed, like I said, at about 3:30 this morning. So it's all very new. It's all very evolving. And we'll have to follow along. I would say hopefully they'll get it done. But based on past performance, probably not. All we can count on is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries sending a strongly worded letter. I like strongly worded letters. No, I don't. I like actual action. Action, not letters, Parker. Remember that as you move on through your career. People want to see action. They don't want empty promises. The American people are sick and tired of empty promises. We've seen it all before. We've heard it.
After them.
We got to get after them. You got to fight a little bit. Just like now the Republicans are saying, well, we got to fight about this gerrymandering redistricting. Wait a minute. No, guys. You can fight. That's fine. But you started this. Now they're all upset about Virginia. But Virginia voted for it. They didn't just do it. Their legislators did just say, we're going to redistrict. We're going to redraw the maps. No, they actually put it to a vote, and the people of Virginia went, yeah, we got to redo these maps. So will of the people versus will of the parties? I'll go will of the people every day. When we come back, is RFK's leadership of the Department of Health and Human Services making the country's health worse? Well, we hear what he had to say about that and being self-aggrandizing. A lot to get to. It's Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
All facts, no fiction. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
I may throw in a little fiction, but I'll let you know that it's fiction. Or you'll have to be quick on the uptake to pick it up. Hi, yes, I am Brian Noonan. Jamie will be back with us on Monday. Parker and Frank are here hanging out with me, and you are hanging out with me, which is the most important. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Do you feel that under Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s leadership, of the Department of Health and Human Services, America is less healthy? The reason I ask is because Kennedy was on Capitol Hill yesterday for 2 different hearings. He went to the Senate Finance Committee in the morning and the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions in the afternoon. One thing about this administration that is different from any other administrations, and you can talk about how, their policies and how they govern and how you're doing, if you're doing better under this administration than you were under other administrations. You can talk about all of that. But one thing that cannot be denied about this administration is a number of the heads of departments, secretaries of this or that, really, really want to be media personalities. Never in the history of my life, in my knowing about government, you knew the names of the Secretary of State. You knew the name of the Vice President. You didn't really know too much about the Secretary of Health and Human Services or the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. You didn't know. You know why? Because they didn't make commercials about themselves. They weren't featured like Kristi Noem used to be on all these threatening deportation videos. They didn't have memes about themselves. They weren't jetting off to the Olympics to get drunk with a hockey team. They were just behind the scenes. You know what they definitely weren't doing? Stripping down to their jeans and taking a steam with Kid Rock. They weren't doing that. That's not why? What are you trying to do? Well, the reason for the hearings yesterday, they came as the White House has taken tighter control of HHS's activities, with officials discouraging Kennedy and his aides from publicly discussing their efforts to overhaul vaccine policies. One, this is where I start to theorize. One reason is because they sound nuts. And 2, because it's becoming very clear to them that other than a minority of the citizenry that is buying into this no vaccine garbage, most people of sound mind are realizing that there's a reason we have vaccines. We are now seeing outbreaks of measles that we have not seen in generations because of, say it with me, vaccines. We heard yesterday that the Defense Department said that now soldiers don't have to get a flu vaccine, despite the fact that the Army developed the flu vaccine and the fact that it has stopped many, many outbreaks. And, most people who get the flu vaccine do pretty well with it because it stops the spread, or it minimizes the spread. And if you want to say that, Brian, you're a sheep, you just give in. You just do whatever the government tells you. Not really, but I don't want to get smallpox. I don't want to get mumps, measles, rubella, all the things that I got vaccinated for as a child, all the things my daughter's been vaccinated for. I'm guessing Parker has been vaccinated for them. Are you vaccinated, Parker? Sure. I
am, yes. I was really late on getting my flu shot this year, but I still got it.
I still got it too. And I never got it up until about 10, 12 years ago, I never got one. And that was not because I didn't believe in vaccines. I was just lazy and thought, well, if I get the flu, I get the flu. And I was young. And in relatively good health. Then I started working with kids, and kids are disgusting. They are little snot sprinklers. They're oscillating fans of viruses. And so I needed to get the flu shot. Well, all right. Let's get to this, because Kennedy was on Capitol Hill yesterday. He was talking to the Senate Finance Committee. Delaware Senator Maggie Hassan asked him about his self-promotion videos that he's released over the last couple months, and RFK had this to say.
You have been doing a lot of your own self-promotion using official government channels and resources. HHS produced a video of you and Kid Rock exercising and drinking milk in a hot tub, I think at his pretend White House. Another official video features a dramatic sequence of you as a shirtless WWE fighter. You also posted a video on government accounts that depicts you as a video game hero. Does the president know about this self-promotion campaign that you're carrying out with official HHS resources?
I didn't know about a number of those videos. We have
They've all come out like in the last 6 weeks, or a couple of months.
I just happen to not see them. I have no
All right,
idea if the
so
president.
you don't know how your own team is managing official U.S. Resources and promoting
Well,
you in the process. So the president hasn't authorized you to use HHS resources for these vanity projects?
I was asked the other day by one of the senators about the Kid Rock video, how much it cost the U.S. government, and I asked my team how much it cost, and they said zero. Interesting. I mean, you were at Kid Rock's home. Did the president authorize you to use official HHS resources for these vanity projects? That's my question. Have you discussed them with the president? Did he authorize the use of them? I've never discussed it with the president.
Oops. Oh, well. That's all right. Just keep spending the dough. That'll be fine. In other HHS news, real quickly, COVID-19 vaccines roughly have the chances that a U.S. adult would need to visit the emergency room or be hospitalized. You know that. But what you're not going to hear about that from the Health and Human Services Department, or because the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the current head of the CDC, blocked the publication of those findings in their flagship journal, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. The authors of the study received an official rejection letter from the journal. Gee, why would we want to discount and not publish something that showed that the vaccines actually worked? Oh, yes, I remember, because we don't need to be vaccinated.
Wisconsin wakes up here. Back to Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Welcome to Hour 2 of the big broadcast. Glad you're here. You want to get involved? Of course you do. Why wouldn't you? This is scintillating conversation. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. As we do at the top of every hour, we start with some headlines from the war. We are, on Saturday, it'll start the 8th week of this war. Seems like only yesterday we were at peace and the Strait of Hormuz was open and there was no threat of any sort of nuclear attack from Iran. Guess what? There's still no threat. Well, it's increased now probably because of the war, but that's just speculation. Anyway, here are the headlines. U.S. President Donald Trump said there is no deadline for ending the war with Iran, the ceasefire, or Tehran's response to his request for a peace proposal. So welcome to whatever. Could go on. Maybe it stops. Who knows? Nothing permanent. No real plan, just like from the beginning. Iran's president said the U.S. blockade on Iranian ports is a major obstacle to talks. The blockade is also what is preventing the Strait of Hormuz from reopening. Iran's top negotiator said that the other day. Tehran has received its first revenue from tolls that it's imposed on ships passing through the strait, that according to Iranian media. And we've been saying this all along. It's very hard to negotiate when somebody has a military blockade on you just because they underestimated your response. They don't like now that you're making money off of something that they basically caused, they being us, the United States. So unless he's willing to pull that blockade, I don't see how Iran is going to negotiate in good faith. They also have the track record of we were negotiating with them when we bombed them. So they got that. The U.S. will host a second round of talks between the Middle Eastern neighbors of Iran and Lebanon today Israel and Lebanon today, amid the fragile ceasefire in Lebanon that has seen attacks by Israel and Iran-backed Hezbollah. And finally, oil prices are rising today. After President Trump said there was no deadline for ending the war with Iran, well, as you can imagine, boom, that quashed hopes of an imminent resolution to the conflict. Brent Crude, which was my radio name in my shock jock era. Yes, that's also my band name. But yeah, Brent Crude in the morning. It was horrible. A lot of slide whistles and anyway, the global oil benchmark is up 1.9% at nearly $104 a barrel. That's on track for the fourth consecutive day of gains. WTI, the U.S. benchmark, is up a similar margin at $94.6 a barrel. If you're trying to keep track of oil prices, you're going to make yourself very dizzy. All week it has been up and down, staying a little below 100, now going back over 100. For some reason, the stock market is still doing very well. So make that make sense to me. If you're in that industry, I have no idea what that means. But that's enough of the Middle East. Now there's some more stuff you need to know.
It's a wake-up call in more ways than one. Time for some you need to know.
This coming from right down 94 in Milwaukee. The federal government agreed to pay over $880,000 in rent each year for Milwaukee's new U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement offices on the city's northwest side. That's for about 18,000 square feet of usable space and 49 parking spots at a single-story building in an office park on West Lake Park Drive. ICE is set to occupy the south side of the building and the southern half of the parking lot. I don't know if we should be giving out where they're going to be parking their cars, but I did because it was in the news story. So that's that. The northern half of the office building has been undergoing renovations to become a U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Counseling Office, or Vet Center. The $881,627 annual rent does not appear to include that half of the building. So we have that money to pay the rent every month, but we don't have money to pay. Anyway, you get the picture. The rent amount is listed on the lease obtained by the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel through an open records request for all leases in the building. It was signed in August of 2024. The current ICE office building is located on Knapp Street, downtown Milwaukee. The federal government has leased that building since 1999. The downtown ICE office does not commonly hold people overnight. Available public information indicates the new office would be similar. So in general, in Wisconsin, ICE detainees are held at the Dodge County Jail. Some local sheriff's offices agree to hold inmates in their jails for a handful of days while they wait for ICE agents to pick up their inmates. In other you need to know, Wisconsin's Supreme Court weighs whether voter eligibility records should be made public. The court is considering whether records relating to people found incompetent to vote should be made available to the public. That question stems from a lawsuit filed by a conservative activist who was involved in reviewing the 2020 presidential election and has contended that ineligible voters cast ballots that cost President Trump the election that year. Keep going after that election. Justices heard oral arguments in the case weighing whether guardianship records provided to the Wisconsin Election Commission are considered public records and should therefore be subject to public record disclosure law. The case emerged from an effort by Ron Huer and the group he founded, Wisconsin Voter Alliance, to gain access to, quote, notices of voting eligibility, end quote. Those are circuit court-sanctioned determinations that a person is no longer able to cast a ballot, often for reasons of health or disability. So Eric Cardle, an attorney for Hauer, said his group argued that it's possible to balance privacy concerns with the public's right to access government records by redacting, identifying, or sensitive information in the competency forms. Wisconsin state law says its incompetency records are closed court documents, but subject to access under certain circumstances, including if a court orders it. Now, the fact that an individual has been found incompetent and the name of and contact information for the guardian is accessible to any person who demonstrates to the custodian of the records the need for that information. That is the state law, verbatim. Now, Justice Rebecca Dallett, one of the court's liberal justices, asked Cardle whether the need to redact information in the forms means that they are, by definition, personal documents that aren't subject to public record laws. That is a very good question. On the opposing side, attorney Samuel Hall said that while records custodians cannot consider a person's intention when evaluating records requests, the activists' redaction argument didn't square with their stated goal of cross-checking ineligible voters against voter rolls. How long are we going to keep re-legislating and investigating the 2020 election? We're 6 years down the road. The guy litigating it is in power again. This is the kind of pettiness and waste of not only time and money that makes people furious. Even some Republicans now are like, enough. This is, and they're rightly saying, the nonstop investigation and relitigation of the 2020 election is causing harm down the ticket because people are tired of this. over 60 court decisions that say there was no irregularities. The data that shows voter fraud is minuscule. All of the things that we've been talking about for 6 years that you and I and even Republicans are getting tired of hearing about. And yet they keep bringing it up for one man's fragile ego and inability to accept defeat. It is tiring, it is frustrating, and in the end, it will be part of the downfall of Republicans in office because people just don't want to hear it anymore. All right, there's other stuff you need to know. Pentagon Navy Secretary John Phelan is leaving. He is the latest departure in a line of top defense leaders. Navy Secretary John Phelan is leaving his job, the Pentagon abruptly announced yesterday. The first head of a military service department during President Trump's second term, but just the latest top defense leader to step down or be ousted. No reason was given for the unexpected departure of the Navy's top civilian official, coming as the Sea Service has imposed a blockade of Iranian ports and is targeting ships linked to Tehran around the world during a tenuous ceasefire in the war. Phelan's departure is the latest in a series of shakeups of top leadership at the Pentagon, just weeks after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth fired the Army's top uniformed officer, General Randy George. Hegseth has also fired other top generals, admirals, and other defense leaders since taking office last year. Do you think there's a chance that perhaps Navy Secretary John Phelan was not in favor of the blockade, was calling for it to be pulled in an effort to move the ceasefire and the negotiations forward? I don't know that for sure. It seems logical, because anytime you question the antics of this administration or question the pronouncements of Pete Hegseth, you seem to disappear. You're gone. Showing how sudden the latest move was, Phelan, the day before, had addressed a large crowd of sailors and industry professionals at the Navy's annual conference in Washington, and he spoke with reporters about his agenda. Now, Pentagon spokesman Sam Parnell said in a social media post that Phelan was, quote, departing the administration effective immediately, and that Undersecretary Hung Kao will become acting secretary. Very strange timing indeed. All right, let's turn our attention closer to home. I know Parker is revving up for this. Madison is girding their loins for the Mifflin Street Block Party. Are you going to the Mifflin Street Block Party?
I'm not. I'm going to a Brewer game actually on Saturday.
Okay, see? And I was not familiar with the Mifflin Street Block Party until
really?
A couple of years ago. Well, yeah.
Okay.
What am I?
Wow.
Creepy old man who hangs around a college block party?
Yeah.
No, I'm not Quagmire.
It's a
not
big
going.
party. I would be surprised that you hadn't spotted it.
It sounds like it's fun. If you don't know, the Mifflin Street Block Party is scheduled for Saturday, and Madison officials yesterday laid out a series of warnings and plans pertaining to the annual and unsanctioned bacchanalia. That's why I would go, because it's a bacchanalia. It traditionally occurs near the end of the UW-Madison spring semester. Central District Police Captain Kip Hartman said about 10,000 people are expected to attend the event that centers on the 2 blocks between Broome and Bedford Streets. More than 150 Madison police officers plus officers from the Dane County Sheriff's Office and UW-Madison Police will be there to meet them, he said. Hello. Madison Police also will have its horse-mounted unit on scene and will keep an eye on the goings-on from above with drones. How many drunk girls are going to try to pet the horsey? There's a horsey. I love horses.
My question is how many of them are going to try to pet the leg of the guy riding the horse?
Hello.
Because that happens.
Really?
Yes.
All right.
You
Holy
get some
cow.
wild videos out of Mifflin, Brian.
Oh, I can't wait. Maybe Parker, if you weren't going to the game, we'd have you man on the street it.
Oh, boy.
Hartman urged residents of the area to park their vehicles elsewhere, put up no trespassing signs, and lock up their valuables because, quote, in past years, we've seen damage to vehicles and valuables stolen from homes. The fire department in Madison is going to be well represented as well. They are going to be out there. They're saying that in order to encourage people to get help if they need it, they are not going to be writing tickets for underage drinking, which that's like, hey, guess what? You can do whatever you want. I know the reason they're doing it, But man, that seems a little bit crazy. So if you call 911, they're not going to write you underage drinking tickets, which is good. Usually if it's raining or cold, that kind of tamps it down a little bit. Saturday's forecast, sunny and a high of 66. Perfect Bacchanalia weather. So that is stuff you need to know. I know it's going to be crazy. Going to be crazy. When we come back, it is Swipe or Stay. Stick around. I'm Brian Noonan. This is Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
Let's break out of the bubble and see what's happening out there in pop culture. It's Swipe or Stay on Daybreak.
Yeah, good morning. This is where we kind of move away from politics and craziness, and we go into the craziness of the celebrity universe with our executive producer, Frank. Frank, we're looking forward to it Thursday. You've been bringing the heat all week. Will the heat continue?
Have I?
Well, you've downplayed some of your own efforts.
We've had
I try
some
to
good
bolster.
stuff.
I build you up. That's my
appreciate it.
job.
No, I think today we are bringing the heat today.
All
so
right.
welcome into Swipe or Say. If you've never listened before, I'm going to read some vague pop culture headlines. Brian and Parker today are going to have to decide whether to stay and hear more about the story or swipe on to the next one. In the event of a tie, I get to be the tiebreaker, and you'll most likely just hear the story anyway.
There you go.
So here we go. Story number 1, Ticketmaster busts large-scale ticket scalpers.
Ooh, I want to hear this. Stay.
Yeah, I like a story about bringing justice.
Yeah.
Hey, how about Ticketmaster finally did something good?
Wow.
Allegedly. I don't know. Look, they put out this statement. I'm going to say allegedly.
Okay.
It is confirmed by them. I just haven't done my own.
By them.
I want to do my own research.
Believe us, Frank. We're telling the
Right.
truth.
So they announced that they investigated and busted ticket scalpers with multiple fake identities, accounts, and bots with tickets to see Harry Styles at Madison Square Garden for his residency, which, as everybody knows, is a very hot ticket. These tickets were then released back to the general public with the most expensive ticket at face value at $130. Now,
Wow. Now
as
that's the most expensive here. That's good.
of the tickets that were busted.
Oh, the ticket that were busted.
The president of Ticketmaster did go on to say that most ticket scalpers buy up all the seats that are affordable
Sure
to
they
the
do.
average fan because they can mark it up easier.
Yeah.
It's an easy profit margin. As somebody
That's great,
who,
though, if they've been released.
right, as somebody who had to join in on this chaos and is going to see Harry Styles at Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
Oh,
Flex. I know.
Wow.
Yeah, you're
Third-
man.
Third time seeing him. Who'd have thought?
Not you.
You didn't
Not-
understand him the
not
first
me.
2 times?
Not me. I can tell you that.
Wow.
Very hard ticket to get. I'm really happy to see that this is true, and maybe some real fans will actually be at the show because nobody wants to battle ticket scalpers every time they want to go see
Nope.
anything.
Yeah. That's good
So
news.
if you're out there listening and you're a ticket scalper, I hate you.
yeah,
Moving on.
you're a garbage human.
You are. We have a Joe Exotic update.
Oh, my
baby.
God. Stay.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know how you guys would feel about Joe Exotic. Oh my God.
It's dumb, but it's interesting.
It is dumb, but it's interesting. But Joe Exotic captured our hearts during
Well,
the height of the COVID.
don't know about
He did. During the height of COVID, Brian,
Oh, no,
Joe
I
Exotic
watched-
was the man.
Dude, I watched that first season of Tiger King. I didn't watch the second, but the first one we were glued to like everybody else.
The Tiger King, Joe Exotic, has been thrown into solitary confinement in prison,
Oh, my God.
allegedly for social media posts.
Really?
The Tiger
Wait a minute.
King's. Yeah, oh yeah. Hold on. I'm going to get to it. The Tiger King's Joe Exotic's attorney, Peter Tickton, tells TMZ that Joe has been placed in the special housing unit at his federal prison in Texas since last week. He goes on to say Joe was disciplined after social media posts were shared online on his behalf because he can't post them himself.
Wow.
Though it's right now, we're not sure if there was a specific message that pissed off the warden. I think of like Shawshank Redemption. Like what made them mad, but it's actually hilarious that Joe Exotic is getting somebody to post for him on the down low.
Wow. It's probably him still begging Trump for a pardon.
Which
That
I
was his
can't
deal.
believe. You know what? You pardon everybody else. You couldn't pardon
Yeah.
Joe Exotic,
You
the
got to
Tiger
throw
King.
into Joe Exotic.
Come on.
That is the craziest story. All right.
Moving on, Hollywood director admits that he's wrong for trying to change this popular movie's ending.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. I want to stay on this. I like movies. All right,
I'm
Frank,
gonna
let's hear it
stay.
anyway.
I'm going to stay because I think Brian's going to like this one. Jon Favreau has admitted that he was wrong for trying to convince the Russo brothers to change the ending of Avengers Endgame.
Really?
Now, spoiler alert, and if you haven't seen Endgame by now,
Well,
it's your own fault.
Yeah, that's
But Tony Stark, a.k.a. Iron Man, dies at the end, and Jon Favreau, who started the Iron Man franchise and basically the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, felt like that was his baby, right?
Yeah.
And you have another director going in and killing him at the end of the movie. So he was really heartbroken about it. So he was on Jimmy Kimmel and said, I talked to the Russos. I said, I don't know if people are going to I don't know. It's really going to impact people because they were kids that grew up with the Iron Man character. He said, but I have to tell you, it was handled so well by them. And Gwyneth Paltrow and Robert Downey Jr. did such a wonderful job acting, and I think it added poignancy to it. They did a wonderful job. I was wrong. Brian, looking back on it, do you think it was the right decision to kill off Iron Man?
Yes, because if you look, Iron Man dies, Captain America goes on and ages and has his ending. It was the end of that chapter of the Marvel Universe. So
Kind of.
yes, I think it was the exact right decision. I thought the movie ended great. I am in agreement with Jon Favreau that he was wrong. So yeah, I mean, I grew up reading Iron Man comics and Avengers comics, and the whole thing was very close to my heart. And that movie killed me at the end with Captain America sitting on the bench, and I was devastated. I walked out of the theater numb.
Oh yeah, you're a big Captain America guy.
Yeah, and Iron Man, when Iron Man died, I was I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, it was but yeah, they made.
Did
the
you
right
have the
decision.
same thought every other masculine man sitting in the theater had? Was, oh my God, am I really gonna cry at the end of this movie?
I said, yeah, it's a
Am I getting
superhero movie.
choked up?
Yep. No, but then I was like, well, these characters I have been part of my life since I was a little kid, riding my bike to White Hen to buy the comic books. So yes, Frank, another great job.
Thank you.
Tomorrow we'll do the same thing. 7:20 every morning we play Swipe or Stay. When we come back, will you be watching the draft tonight? A lot of football news next on Daybreak.
Local news, community stories, and the conversations that matter most. Now, more Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Welcome back to Daybreak. I am Brian Noonan. Jamie will be back with us on Monday. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Got two topics on the table. One is breaking news that we are going to get to, and I want to get your reaction to a reclassification of cannabis on the federal level. If you are an aficionado, this could be good news. Going to be good news across the country, but it may also lead to good news here in Wisconsin. So this coming out about 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, President Trump's acting attorney general this morning signed an order reclassifying state-licensed medical marijuana as a less dangerous drug, a major policy shift long sought by activists who said cannabis should never have been treated like heroin by the federal government. The order signed by Todd Blanche does not legalize marijuana for medical or recreational use under U.S. law, but it does change the way it is regulated, shifting licensed medical marijuana from Schedule 1, reserved for drugs without medical use and with high potential for abuse, to the less strictly regulated Schedule 3. It also gives licensed medical marijuana operators a major tax breaks and eases some barriers to researching cannabis. So that is good news because just on a medical marijuana basis, we have seen the positive effects that cannabis can have on cancer patients, on all different kinds of people with pain, arthritis, everything. So this is a long time coming. And again, I will take the win, but I also, being cynical as I am, look at this and say, another attempt to curry favor with certain voters prior to the midterms. But no matter what it is, people will see through any sort of duplicitousness and say that this is good news for people who need cannabis to manage their pain and help them with the horrible diseases that they're dealing with. So there you go. We'll keep you updated if anything changes on that throughout the morning. But let's turn our attention to the NFL, especially the green and gold, the Green Bay Packers. The draft, the NFL draft starts today. Now, the Packers will not be picking until tomorrow, but a lot going on today, and we'll start with bad news. It's not draft related, but it is 100% Packers related. Lovell Ives, the influential University of Wisconsin Green Bay music professor, whose reach in the community spanned Green Bay Packers games at Lambeau Field to the CP Telethon, has died. He passed away April 11th at his home in Rib Lake. He was 97. He was an instrumental member of the music faculty at the university. And the biggest deal is, of all the accomplishments in his life, one of his greatest was creating and composing the tune Go Pack Go. Do you have some of that, Parker?
I
I thought he'd be all ready.
100% will. Sorry, I was looking at the NFL theme musics.
Oh, we don't. Yeah. So he loved being a part of the organization. He was so proud to give that gift, according to his obituary. He also led the UWG, University of Wisconsin Green Bay Marching Band, and composed the school's Phoenix Fight song. And it's him like alma mater, but Go Pack Go is the one that everybody knows. We got to cut that, Parker. Frank's starting. I see him throwing up in his mouth a little bit. Yeah, he's getting it. So R.I.P. Lovell Ives, the composer and writer of Go Pack Go. Lyrically, not a stretch, but it's very good. And I'm not.
It caught on, Brian.
It did catch on. And it is a sad day, but his music and Go Pack Go will live on forever. So that's good news. Anyway, all right. So the draft starts today, boys. It's in Pittsburgh, PA. Beautiful downtown Pittsburgh, PA. Begins at 7 o'clock tonight, Central Time. It's on the North Shore of Pittsburgh at Point State Park, there's three rivers, as you know, in Pittsburgh. They all coalesce and all merge right at the Point State Park, which is a beautiful park. You look to depending on which way you're standing in the park, you see not only the Steelers Park, you see PNC Ballpark, you see it all. It's, man, oh man, it's a beautiful little spot there. So day 2, when the Packers start, that is tomorrow. It starts at 6 p.m. All right, now, Parker, you got to be excited about this. You're a resident sports guy currently. Frank is a sports guy 100%, used to work at sports stations, a lot of hot takes. I can't wait.
Member of the Pro Football Writers of America. Thank you.
Is that right?
I am incredibly jealous of that.
That's wow.
That's very cool.
Now, that's a legit flex.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So people know that when you spout off, you got a little weight behind you.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking physically.
I feel like I've been out of the game for a couple of years, but I'm getting back into it.
There you go, especially now. So the Packers have, let's see, what do they have? 2, 4, 6, 8 picks.
Yeah.
Only one in the second round. That's the 52nd pick. Then they've got one in the third round, one in the fourth, 2 in the fifth, and 2 in the sixth, and 1 in the seventh round. That's their compensatory pick. So this is all. They got their second rounder, right, Parker, because they gave up.
Yeah, it turns out when you trade for Micah Parsons, you don't get to pick in the first round for a while.
Oh,
it's a lofty price. Which
is that how that works?
It is how that works usually.
You get marquee players cost.
They do. That's what they're telling me. Yeah.
So I guess the question, Parker, looking back on it, would you still make that deal?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to hear any boo-hooing.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not boo-hooing. I don't care. I'm just saying. That's the price.
Parker, since you're the Packers fan,
you're the Packers guy.
I would ask this question to everybody. 855-752-4842 or 855-75-CIVIC. What is on your wish list for this Packers team. We're at the NFL draft. Obviously, they don't have a first-round pick, but they do have 8 picks in total. They can still make some trades. Is there anything that's high on your wish list? And Parker, I would go with you first, since you're obligated to speak on this show.
Yes.
Oh, it's an obligation now. I don't know.
Yep.
What is high on your wish list for the Packers?
I would definitely like to see. I don't have any names. I'm unfortunately sorry.
That's
about
okay.
that.
Tomorrow.
But
You can have names tomorrow.
I definitely want to see some kind of reinforcement to the defensive line, but I think cornerback is the place that the Packers will really focus. Kind of bread and butter for the Packers that need a cornerback. That's kind of a tale old as time, it feels. Yeah.
Well, and I think part of that is when you look at the quarterbacks around the division, you've got Caleb Williams, who's coming into his own.
Yes, he is.
You've got 9 out in Minnesota.
9.
Look out for him. Good old JJ McCarthy. I'm just kidding.
JJ McCarthy, what a guy. Yeah.
But you also have Jared Goff, who's no slouch. And I know we like to make fun of the Lions, but Jared Goff and the Lions have been scary outside of last year, and I still think they can be a good team.
Yeah, they definitely have. And we just got a text from Chris in Waterloo talking about both the O-line and D-line. Maybe a running back is what the Packers should be going for. 100% agree. Offensive line could always use a little bit of help. That is also a very Packers thing to do.
That was going to be my suggestion, because over the last number of years working in Wisconsin and following the Packers more regularly than I ever thought I would, the O-line is always a concern because people are always getting hurt. It's the same concern pretty much every team has. I know the Bears have that same concern. Last year, their O-line looked a little better, but the offensive line, you gotta protect your quarterback. You just have to.
Yeah, I mean, I look at offensive linemen like I view relief pitchers in baseball, where it's like if you ask every single team, their answer is, yeah, we just got to strengthen up the bullpen for our late postseason run.
Right.
And that's no matter what team you talk to, any fan of any team, they're like, yeah, once our bullpen really comes into their own. It's the same thing with offensive linemen.
Yeah.
You need depth. I mean, these are guys that are getting hit every single play. You get your ankles rolled up on.
Yep.
Injuries happen all the time.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to
O-line
talk.
depth is so key.
Mike Clemens is going to join us tomorrow morning at 8:30, and we're going to talk about the first picks for the Packers, or the first pick for the Packers, which is happening tomorrow night. We'll talk some more X's and O's about the draft, but I have to. This is exciting for me as a second-generation Irishman. Ireland is going to play a huge part in the Packers draft this weekend in Pittsburgh, because the Packers International Fan of the Year, Stephen O'Brien, is from County Wicklow in Ireland, just like the Packers punter Daniel Whalen, also a native of County Wicklow. So the Irish are going to be well represented because, the draft is starting this weekend. So Irish singer-songwriter Gavin James is going to take part alongside young musicians from the Institute playing the traditional Irish harp. The group will add an Irish touch, performing ESPN's iconic The Pick Is In chime as the broadcast cuts to the Green Bay pick, followed by a harp rendition of Go Pack Go. So Ireland getting crazy representation. Each team has an International Fan of the Year. They'll attend the draft in Pittsburgh, where the ultimate International Fan of the Year will be named. O'Brien will announce a Packers pick from the draft stage, as did last year's International Fan Matthias Kraus of Germany. He was at the draft in Green Bay. So you might wonder, well, who's this Stephen O'Brien? Why does he get to be the International Fan of the Year for the Packers? Well, because he's the founder and major domo of the UK and Irish Packers Group. It was launched in 2013, and it might be the largest Packers group in Europe. O'Brien's podcast certainly is the largest Packers podcast and possibly second largest NFL podcast in all of the UK.
Really?
So, yes. Wow. See?
Go Pack,
I can do research too, boys.
Packers everywhere, boys.
You can, Brian. I never doubted you for a second.
Lies. So, no, but that just caught my eye. I was like, oh, look at this. The Irish. I love when the Irish are involved. I'm unapologetically a booster of all things Ireland. So that is going to be really cool to see. And a fitting tribute to Lovell Ives, who I bet they will mention when they begin to do the Harper edition of Go Pack Go, which I think, Parker, are you looking forward to that? That sounds like it'll be very touching.
Yeah, that could be really neat. There's some really neat stuff. The draft, to me, the most fun thing is kind of seeing the fan interactions, and that's kind of one of those things right there. It's just really cool to see how that they can be involved. I was at the draft last year. A couple of my college buddies and I in student media, we got credentials. So we actually got to do stuff. Yeah.
All right, big time.
As we were walking around, I think we were talking about fans of the year earlier. I think we met 7 fans of the year, like international fans of the years. Because each team has one.
Yeah.
And they all end up there. So we met a ton of them. Ton of guys from Germany, I noticed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with the NFL having games in Germany now,
Yeah.
I think that plays a huge part. Same with the UK.
And it was Green Bay, Wisconsin, a lot of brats and German sausages. So that
Parker, let me ask
They
you,
felt
after
comfortable.
meeting these fans of the year, do you walk away going, wow, that's a really cool person? Or do you go, wow, that dude's nuts? 50-50 split?
One of them gave us a business card.
What was the business?
It was like, I'm the German Packer.
Shut up. That's really it?
Well,
Do you still have the
for
card?
the draft, I could see it for the draft. That would be
Why
pretty
aren't we
cool.
calling him up?
Yeah.
Put your producer hat on, Parker. What are we
Frank.
doing?
Frank, will you
I'll try to
please
find it.
will
Let me
you
coach
please
this
school
kid
this
up.
guy?
Yeah.
Hey, we'll get him
This
in tomorrow.
Oh my goodness. All right, well, there's been misconduct in the public schools in Wisconsin. Trying to get some of that fixed. This is Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan on the Civic Media Network.
Local voices, statewide impact. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Welcome back. Glad you are with us. It is Thursday. This is Daybreak. I am Brian Noonan. Jamie will be back next week. Now that we have all that out of the way, real quick, I just want to remind you to go check out our new social media pages on Instagram and Facebook. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie. You can also download podcasts. If you miss any segment or any episode, you can go to Spotify. Just search for Daybreak with Brian and Jamie. Subscribe to that podcast, and we will be in your feed. And then we will be in your head. So do that and download the free Civic Media app, because that'll allow you to take us everywhere. There's all the things that make us accessible, and we appreciate you doing all of them and taking us along or just following and telling your friends about the show. We've seen a lot of and heard a lot of reports in recent years about sexual misconduct in schools. We've heard about them in Wisconsin. We've heard about them across the country, and it's troubling that we're hearing more stories. But on the flip side, it's good that things are being reported and people are being held accountable. Well, that's kind of what happened on Capitol Hill, or at the state capitol yesterday. Senator Steve Nass was pressing Superintendent Jill Underly on how she planned to address educator sexual misconduct and grooming in Wisconsin. He said to her, "You've been in office about 4.5 years." He's a Republican, of course, from Whitewater. He told her during a public hearing last fall, without that the Cap Times article, I don't think we'd be here today. Legislator called the hearing with Underly 3 weeks after the Capital Times revealed the Department of Public Instruction investigated more than 200 educators accused of sexual misconduct and grooming. That is astonishing that many reports. The reporting showed the department fell short of investigative steps and transparency measures that abuse prevention advocates say would better protect children. In response to the Cap Times story, Wisconsin lawmakers held 3 hearings questioning top education officials, ordered an audit of the department's practices, and passed laws to close loopholes and prevent students from being abused by teachers and others. I misspoke. The hearing was not yesterday. The hearings were in the fall, but they led to this, and this was all a result of reporting in the Cap Times. This is what responsible journalism and investigative journalism looks like. It shines a light on issues and then results in action from that. And so congrats to the Cap Times on this story. So here are some of the new laws that passed because of their reporting. And this is an example of not being afraid to go where people don't want you to go. I'm sure the Department of Public Education did not want all of this out in the open. Not that they were covering it up, but just that they were dealing with it. But because it came to light, these laws came into effect. Criminalizing grooming a child for sexual activity, which I can't believe was not a crime prior to that. Requiring schools to adopt policies on appropriate communication and to train staff on recognizing grooming. Ban schools from entering into non-disclosure agreements with employees investigated for misconduct. Require the Department of Public Instruction to maintain an online searchable database that shows the outcomes of misconduct investigations and identifies educators who lost their licenses. These are all good. State Representative Amanda Nadusky, she's a Republican from Pleasant Prairie, authored 3 of the bills signed by the governor, said the Cap Times reporting on educator misconduct proved absolutely critical to getting these bills over the finish line. Yes, because now it is not a partisan issue. It is a child safety issue. It is a public safety issue, which everybody should be able to get behind. But sometimes we don't know about those issues until there is strong reporting from a place like the Cap Times. Jill Underly backed some of the proposals, like defining grooming in the state law, while defending the Department of Public Instruction's work investigating misconduct. She vowed to increase transparency and began publishing more information about educators who lost their licenses before lawmakers mandated those disclosures. Yeah, you should be able, if you are a school district, anywhere in the state or anywhere in the country, quite frankly, to be able to look up a database. Now, if somebody... No, I'm not going to qualify it. If you've lost your license for one of these reasons, you deserve always to have that follow you. I never want you back in a school. If you have been found guilty of one of these crimes, if you're grooming, if you're having inappropriate conversations, if you're, God forbid, having inappropriate contact with a student, you should never be allowed to teach again. And you should never be allowed to mislead another district just because they can't check. Because we all know, if somebody calls for references, you can't actually say, no, Parker was a horrible employee because, one time he unplugged the board and then he flipped the host off during a broadcast. We can't say any of that. Can't say it. We can just say, yes, Parker worked at Civic Media from this date to this date. That's all they can say. Well, now you can't hide. And I don't want these people to be able to hide. If you have a child, you obviously don't want anything to happen to them. And if you're a teacher, all the teachers I've met, all the teachers I've worked with want nothing but the best for their students. Can the kids be annoying sometimes? Yes, and teachers are human, but they have no tolerance for inappropriate behavior. And so I think the people who perpetrate those heinous acts need to be uncovered and exposed and never let in a school building again. So good for them. If you are listening on WMDX, I'm sorry, but you have to go. Not my choice. I'd love you to stay. And you can stay. You can go to YouTube. You can go to Facebook. You could go to the free Civic Media app, and you can listen to the final hour of the show. If not, you can enjoy Stephanie Miller on WMDX. Everybody else on the network, hey, guess what? You're stuck with me, and I don't think that's a bad thing. So if you are listening in Appleton and Oshkosh, Hayward, Eau Claire, Richland Center, don't worry. We'll be back with more headlines and a lot more to come because, as I watch the clock so Parker doesn't yell at me, this is Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan, and this is the Civic Media Network.
Across the state of Wisconsin, Daybreak with Brian and Jamie is back.
Welcome to the third hour of the show. Glad you finally made it. If you've been here the whole time, wow, you are dedicated and we appreciate it. Hello to everybody watching on the stream as well. You can always do that if you want to see what Parker, Frank, Jamie, and myself look like while we're doing this broadcast. You can always go to YouTube and check it out or watch it on Facebook and make sure you go to the Facebook page, Daybreak with Brian and Jamie. That's also our Instagram handle. So we start at the top of the hour with some headlines. Let's go to headlines from the war. Starting things off, the Islamic Republic said it fired on 3 outbound ships and seized 2, calling it retaliation for the American naval blockade of Iranian ports and for the U.S. firing on and seizing an Iranian ship that did not stop when hailed by a vessel enforcing the blockade. The attacks unfolded just a day after President Trump said he would extend the 2-week ceasefire with Iran. Of course, as we mentioned before, that is an open-ended halt to the extending of the ceasefire. We don't know. He's extending everything, but we don't have an end time, so we'll see what happens. In southern Lebanon, 3 separate Israeli strikes killed at least 6 people and wounded others, according to local authorities. Israel denied carrying out one of the strikes and did not immediately comment on the others. The attacks came as Israeli and Lebanese ambassadors prepared for a new meeting Thursday in Washington toward extending a fragile 10-day ceasefire that began last week. That 10-day ceasefire, of course, between Israel and Lebanon. Finally, the U.S. Senate voted against a Democratic attempt to halt Trump's war in Iran, rejecting the resolution 46-51 yesterday, as Republicans in Congress have largely backed Trump's military efforts. It was the 5th time this year that the Senate voted to cede its war powers to the president in a conflict that Democrats say is illegal and unjustified. No surprise there. The most part, the Senate and the House will do whatever the president says until November. He said, fingers crossed, and I think a lot of people are agreeing. Even Republicans are starting to come around to, he might not know what he's doing. All right, that is headlines from the war. Now, more stuff you need to know.
It's a wake-up call in more ways than one. Time for some you need to know.
Well, here we go. If you're planning on any air travel this summer, 1, it's going to cost you more, and 2, they might not be happening, because on top of higher airfares and fees because of the war in Iran, airlines in Europe and Asia, many of which depend on imported jet fuel, are now facing a potential shortage, raising the odds of flight cancellations and schedule cuts. The U.S. right now is in no immediate danger of running out of jet fuel, but the global shortage is driving up fuel prices for U.S. carriers. They're cutting back on cheap airfares and less profitable flights, a move that's likely to drive up airfares for U.S. travelers, particularly in the summer months. Well, there goes your vacation, Parker. Even if the U.S. and Iran reach a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz today, the die is cast for summer travel. Airlines are planning routes and setting airfares months in the future. United, for example, has cut its previously planned schedule by about 5% over the next 6 months. Airlines, and you and I, likely won't see any relief until deep into the summer, if at all. That's because it'll take months to resume normal supplies of oil and jet fuel. It's going to take until at least July, said Matt Smith. He's head U.S. analyst at energy consulting firm Kepler, and even that may be optimistic at this point. Fuel is the second largest cost for airlines, just behind labor. A single-aisle commercial jet burns roughly 800 gallons of jet fuel an hour. Wide bodies generally burn even more. The 4 largest U.S. airlines, United, American, Delta, and Southwest, spend about $100 million a day on average among them on fuel. That was last year's cost. Those costs are up dramatically since the war began. Delta said last week that it would spend an additional $2 billion on fuel this year, even though it owns its own refinery. United could spend an extra $11 billion on fuel this year if things stay the way they are. So, another cost of doing business with a war of choice. This story bothers me a little bit, Parker, and I think you'll know why. Texas can now require the 10 Commandments to be displayed in public schools. That based on a U.S. appeals court ruling yesterday in a victory for conservatives who have long sought to incorporate more religion into the classrooms. A 9-8 decision by the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals delivered a boost to backers of similar laws in Arkansas and Louisiana. Opponents have argued that hanging the 10 Commandments in classroom proselytizes to students and amounts to religious indoctrination by the government. Yes, Public schools are not religious schools. If you have a private school, you can put the 10 Commandments up, you can put religious verses up, you can do whatever. But public schools are public, which means you are going to have students from every religion and students with no religion. And they all deserve to come to school and not be smacked in the face with somebody else's religion. Boy, in a lengthy majority decision or opinion, the conservative-leaning appeals court in New Orleans rejected those arguments in Texas, saying the requirement does not step on the rights of parents or students. Man, I could not disagree with that more. No child is made to recite the commandments, believe them, or affirm their divine origin. Then why are we putting them in the classroom? That according to the ruling. The American Civil Liberties Union and other groups that challenge the Texas law on behalf of parents said in a statement that they anticipate appealing the ruling to the U.S. Supreme Court. The mandate is one of several fronts in Texas that opponents have fought over religion in the classrooms. In 2024, the state approved optional Bible-infused curriculum for elementary schools, and a proposal set for a vote in June would add Bible stories to required reading lists in Texas classrooms. Once again, if this does not bother you, if this does not scare you, and if you don't worry that someday this could come to Wisconsin, you need to pay more attention. We are not a theocracy. Our public schools are not just platforms for the religious right to indoctrinate kids into their message. You can believe whatever you want. I don't have a problem with the religious right believing what they believe, reading the Bible, saying their prayers, going to church. I don't have any problem with that. I don't believe that you should have to see and be exposed to this stuff as a kid if you're not part of it. And 100% disagree with Bible stories being part of a reading list and added to the curriculum. I don't know why people are standing for this, but it's got to stop. All right, one more thing you need to know. The California attorney and animal rights activist who organized two recent raids at Ridgeland Farms Beagle breeding facility in Blue Mounds has been banned from Dane County except for court appearances. Man, you got to be rough. You're getting banned from the whole county. Wayne Hissung, mispronouncing his name, and I apologize for that. It is not an intentional slight. He appeared in court April 21st on felony burglary charge following his arrest 3 days earlier. Dane County Court Commissioner Brian Asmus set Sung's bail at $20,000, barred him from Dane County except for court hearings or visits with his attorney, banned him from Blue Mounds, and ordered no contact with Ridgeland Farms or anyone connected to it. He was then released from custody the same day. Ridgeland Farms breeds beagles for sale to medical research laboratories, as you know. State regulators have documented hundreds of violations at the facility, and activists claim the dogs continue to be mistreated. Now, Ridgeland Farm has denied all of those allegations. Saturday, about 1,000 activists descended on the property in an organized effort to enter and remove the dogs. Sung and four co-defendants had been in custody since the weekend before appearing in court on Tuesday. He and co-defendants Melanie Briano, Adita Swami, Michelle Lunsky, and Dean Rozowski are each charged with felony burglary as party to a crime, a Class F felony carrying a maximum penalty of 12 years and 6 months in prison, or a $25,000 fine. So this story is not going away, but man, I've been tossed out of a bar. I've never been tossed out of a county. That's you got to do some work to get thrown out of a county. That's crazy. Let's go back, and I want to open this to you too, since we don't usually do this during stuff you need to know. But this Texas case really bothers me, and I'm wondering at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842, how do you feel about? Now, I know it's just Texas, but it's also Arkansas and Louisiana. How do you feel about the Ten Commandments and other religious messages being part of a public school's curriculum? Again, this is public school. This is not private school. So I would love to hear from you on this, because the more we allow this to happen, the more we just shrug and say, well, that's somewhere else. Or, oh, that could never happen in Wisconsin. Or, you know what? Maybe people need a little more God in their lives. It will continue to spread because once courts empower these groups to do this kind of thing, they are empowered and they will keep going. And I talked about this the other day with wrapping yourselves in Christianity and this is because the big Bible reading was last night. Parker, I know you were paying attention. Did you listen to the president and all the other Republicans read the Bible on America Reads the Bible Day?
I'm afraid not, no.
I didn't either because I don't think that's the place for the Bible. I don't think we need to be. I don't even think, to be honest, I don't even know why we get sworn in on the Bible, but I know we still have that. We were founded as a Christian nation, and in God we trust on our money, and there's that part of things. But that's fine. We also have the separation of church and state, which I know people throw around, and it does mean that the government will not impose one religion on the country. And if you're watching, that is exactly what's happening. From Pete Hegseth imploring God's name and making the war about a righteous religious cause, from Trump supporters who equate him with Jesus, to the president himself putting out a meme of himself as Jesus role-playing as a doctor. I guess that was his excuse. I'm not completely sure. All of these things are leading us toward the nationalization of one religion. And this country is not one religion. This country is made up of fine people of all religions and fine people of no religion. I have to put those people in there too. If you're an atheist, if you're an agnostic, you have a right not to be bludgeoned with a religion that you don't believe in. If you're Muslim and your kids go to public school, they shouldn't have to see the Ten Commandments. It's not the place. You can talk to them about different religions. As they get older, they will meet people of different religions, and hopefully they are open-minded enough to have discussions and say, oh, I've never, I practice Islam. What do you, oh, I'm a Catholic or I'm a Christian. Oh, and they talk about the differences and similarities. Because really, the main similarity is treat other people with respect. Be a good person. I mean, if you broke down all religion, it comes to that. It's all the surrounding stuff that gets in the way. It's the pomp, it's the pageantry, it's the exclusion of that. Julie from Wausau chimes in. Thank you, Julie. Public schools are not Sunday schools. I find the loudest Christians are the biggest hypocrites. It does tend to go that way, Julie. I will agree. Thank you for the call. When we come back, oh my gosh, should public schools, or should college admissions rather, get rid of test scores? We'll find out. I'm Brian Noonan. This is Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
Want to join in on the conversation? Call or text 855-75-CIVIC. Now back to Brian and Jamie.
If you have a student who is in junior year of high school, they may be taking the SATs, the ACTs, because they're getting ready to start making decisions to apply for colleges next year. If you have a student who's graduating from high school, they probably went through it. But are test scores really necessary? And should college admissions get rid of test scores altogether? That's what I want to know from you at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Parker, did you take the ACT, the SAT?
I took the
PSAT, the LSAT.
I didn't take just the ACT. I had a kind of weird timing though, because I'm in the class that was affected by COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I had my ACT right before COVID started. So I had test scores, and then colleges didn't require the scores though, because not everyone had had the chance to take the ACT quite yet when COVID hit. So.
See, I went to a Jesuit high school where they imagined that all of our illustrious alums would be heading off to Ivy League schools. So I had to take both the ACT and the SAT. And those were, back in the day, or even as recently as my daughter, when she was going into college, it was a very big deal, your scores. She took her ACT 3 times. Now, here's the thing. She scored a 33, I think, the first time, which is
smarty pants.
Yeah, I wish it was my flex. It is not. Then she was trying to get to a 35 because 35 was the cutoff. She wanted to go to Notre Dame. So she got there. She had the ACT. She had the honors classes. She had all the grades. She's very smart. She gets it from her mother. I'm not so bold as to. Unfortunately, she gets her sense of humor and her ability to hold a grudge from me. But the smarts, thankfully, she got from her mom.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, the reason I bring this up is because the University of Wisconsin Board of Regents unanimously voted on Monday to continue a temporary test optional admissions policy for current juniors slated to graduate from high school in the spring of 2027. Their admission applications open August 1st, 2026, and they will arrive on a UW campus in fall of 2027. These are the high school juniors. So this has obviously brought up, and it's nothing new because, as I said, UW has expanded this. So they've been doing this for a while. But a longstanding policy required incoming freshmen to submit ACT or SAT scores, but the board suspended that requirement, like Parker said, in 2020 when the pandemic severely restricted the number of testing sites available. The board has extended the suspension of the temporary policy several times, including this week. So test optional advocates say requiring exam scores disproportionately hurts students of color who often lacked the resources for test prep, which is a relatively, maybe not new, but there were no test prep services when I was taking the ACT and the SAT. You just took it and hoped for the best. So if you were smart, you were in luck. If you had trouble taking a test, it was rough. And I think you could take it again, but nobody I knew took it a second time. Mostly because at that point, if you got a pretty good score, you were getting in places. Even really good schools were competitive, but not ultra competitive like they have gotten now. Now it's insane how competitive top-tier universities have gotten, including UW-Madison. So it seems maybe it helps these students. We'll find out, but because evidence is bearing that out. But those in favor of testing requirements, including many state Republican lawmakers, say that tests make the admission process more transparent and driven by merit. This is one of those very complicated things because when I look at it, and I know, we're supposed to have hot takes and we're supposed to have strong feelings and we're not supposed to go down the middle. But on some issues, you have to look at both sides and say, I get it. I get that in education, a test score is a test score. You can't go just by test scores, though. Here's the problem. I want people to know what they're doing, but I also want universities to accept students who on paper may not be the best possible student, but they have a lot of varied interest. They've been in clubs, they've been in athletics, they've been in band, they've volunteered in their community, they've done projects. Maybe they're in scouting and they're rising up. They're Eagle Scouts or they're almost Eagle Scouts. All these things that go beyond the test. I still think it's important to take the tests, and I think tests should be part of the admissions process, but not the be-all, end-all like they used to be. Tests were what every college went by. But college, in reality, is about building a person. It's not just drilling facts into somebody's head. It's taking a young person and exposing them to different ideas and different thought processes. And I know that's what a lot of people who think colleges are liberal bastions of domestic terrorism and socialism and all the things they argue against. But really, that's what college is about. You got to go and you have to see things. You meet people, we were talking about religion in the last subject with little kids. You meet people of different races, different religions, different cultures. You learn about them. You decide what you want. You decide what you like, what you don't like. Well, most schools have remained test optional even as the pandemic has faded. Just two of the other Big Ten schools, Ohio State and Purdue, mandate test scores, and they both have seen double-digit percentage drops in admission applications. The UW system said in meeting materials, Illinois and Iowa are permanently test optional, while Michigan and Minnesota are largely test optional. Even before the test optional movement became mainstream, test scores were not a critical factor in the admissions process at most UW campuses, with the exception of UW-Madison.
Fairly solid and better than expected. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Welcome to Daybreak. Yeah, the big voice guy told you. I like to reiterate, though, so you remember, this is Daybreak. I am Brian Noonan. Jamie will be back with us on Monday. Until then, you can keep me company at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. You can also go to our social media pages. You can get the Civic Media app. You can download and subscribe to us on Spotify. Oh, my goodness. Dare I say there's almost too much of us.
There's a lot of us.
There's a lot of us, and you should take advantage of it, because if we're putting it out there, pick it up, run with it, share it. Anyway, what is your prediction for the future of America? Now, I know sometimes it may seem bleak, but I want to know your prediction for the future of America. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. I know on this show sometimes I can seem a little pessimistic. And by a little, I mean very. But it's because we're stuck in all the things that are happening now, and a lot of them, quite frankly, are not good. They are troubling, and so it's hard to look past the future. It's hard to look past November. It's hard to look past, it's hard to look to 2030 and wonder what will happen. It's hard to look past 2030 and 2040. What is the future of America? And the reason I'm asking you this is because Jenna Bush Hagen from the Today Show, she got that answer from our former living presidents, Presidents Clinton, Bush, and Obama. Clinton, Bush, Obama, and Biden all talked to her, and they revealed what they had as their prediction for the future of America. It is surprisingly good, I will say. We'll get into the specifics in a few minutes, but I don't know if everybody else is going to have as optimistic a look. But anyway, this was an exclusive to the Today Show. The former presidents each spoke individually with Jenna Bush Hager on April 21st in an interview at a private event in Philadelphia over the weekend called History Talks, which was hosted by the History Channel. So Joe Biden's 83, Barack Obama 64, President Clinton, Bill Clinton 79, and her father, George Bush, is also 79. So she talked to all of them. And during the conversation with Obama, she asked him whether he still feels the hope in the country that was once a driving principle of his historic presidential campaign in 2008. And he said, quote, "The first time I was on the national stage and I talked about hope, I reminded people hope is not blind optimism. Hope arises in the face of difficulty, in the face of uncertainty." That's the end of his quote. And boy, we are in that time now, right? We are dealing in times of uncertainty, and we are facing difficulties in this country. And I'm wondering if you're still hopeful. 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. So, again, she asked each of the former presidents what message they have for the American people ahead of the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding. That's right, this July 4th, it's America 250. And what did those presidents have to say? Well, here's some of it. President Obama: "Remember what's best in us, the basic principle upon which this country was founded, which is we don't have rulers, we don't have kings or monarchs or aristocracies, we have citizens. And if we hold true to that idea that we, the people, had been gifted this chance of self-government, if we pay attention to our responsibilities and our duties, and if we respect and hold on. Parker, I gotta start getting this away from single spacing, because I also need to go see the glasses. If we extend and respect thoughtfulness to our fellow citizens, even if we disagree with them, if we understand that part of this democratic project is to sort through our differences in peaceful, legal ways, then I'm confident that we're going to have another 250-year run that's going to be just as good. I want you to listen to these quotes from the presidents, and tell me if you agree with them. Because, again, I think all four of them were very optimistic. I don't know if they're just doing that so that we don't all fall apart.
That's comforting.
And just start crying like big babies, because things are tough. And we're I don't know, we're on the precipice. So what did President Clinton have to say about it? Well, he said, the country will survive as much by the process, by the freedom to speak, the freedom to vote, the freedom to be active in politics, as by any particular issue. And because it's like it is, compromise is essential. We're the most unique country in the world. This is what the President Biden then said. We are the most unique country in the world, in the sense that we really do think democracy is dictated by the rule of the Constitution, and we do believe and we do well that all men are created equal. So now we've got the three former living Democratic presidents that came out, and they all gave very happy predictions for the future and instructions for all of us. And I will say, as a Democrat, these are really good instructions. And that is true. These are what we should believe. These are what we should be doing. Well, the only living former president is George Bush, Jenna Bush Hager's dad, who, you're welcome to go back. We can all go back and look at George Bush's presidency. Now, though, he's kind of stayed out of the spotlight. And in light of how the Republican Party is going now, George Bush is looked at through kind of a rose-colored hindsight, where we don't forget everything he did, but you look at him now and you go, all right, well, maybe he's more level-headed being out of office this long, and maybe what does he have to say? And what is your prediction? 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. We're getting texts about the test scores. Let's talk about our predictions. So here is George W. Bush. This is his message, his prediction for America on the upcoming 250th birthday. My message is, consider yourself fortunate to be part of a great nation. Study our history so you can have a better sense of what the future will be like. And be a citizen, not a spectator. And by that I mean participate in the process, but also love a neighbor like you'd love a loved one. See, one of the beauties of this country is that there are thousands and thousands of citizens who volunteer on a daily basis to help somebody in need. They're often not heralded, but they make a huge difference, one person at a time. And again, I don't care what party you're from. How are you going to argue with that? How are you going to argue with a former president telling you, how about you get involved and you help somebody and you try to take care of your neighbors? And those, all four of them, you can argue, well, in the real world, these are just platitudes. Who doesn't believe that you should help other people? Who doesn't believe that you should be compassionate and care? And I would caution you, before making that blanket statement, to look around. There are a lot of examples of this country trying to cut out empathy and cut out any sort of help for the less fortunate, and forget that, yes, we do need to compromise. We need to look at people we don't agree with and have a conversation. Does that mean you're going to change anyone's mind? No. But can we coexist and find some sort of way to move the country forward rather than either stalling it or taking it backwards? Which is, if you look at the MAGA slogan right there, it's, you don't want to move the country forward. You want it to go back to how it was before. Because for whatever reason, that's when you think this country was the greatest. And I don't believe that. I truly believe that the greatest is yet to come. I may not be around to see it. You may not be around to see it, but your kids or your grandchildren can be around to see it. But the track we're on now, where we are always at each other's throats, where we disagree with somebody based on just the same simple aspect that they vote for a different party, that's never going to work. Does that mean we can't have fiery debates and heated arguments and basic human disagreements on things that we hold very morally important? No, you have to fight for those things. But at the end of the day, we've got to figure out how to move forward. We got a text in from the 855 area code. We're just going to keep electing Democrats that will undo what the Republican president did and vice versa and not get anywhere. Yeah, that seems to be the way. We put somebody in, we don't like what they do, we put the other party in, and they undo things, and then we just keep going around in circles. But some things have to be undone. I mean, we can't also live in a land where we say, okay, we're going to keep all these past programs. Some things need to be, if not undone completely, reconfigured. And you can reconfigure those things with debate. You don't have to just slash things. We're not talking about Elon Musk coming in with chainsaw and just cutting. You don't have to just cut. You can fix things up. We also got Tyler in Wisconsin Rapids testing in his prediction for the future of America, either MAGA hat wearing Zombieland or Shangri-La. Boy, those are opposite ends of the spectrum, Tyler. I hope we can find something in the middle, because one of those is completely unacceptable, and the other one, I think, is just a dream of a paradise that we will never achieve. But we can work toward a middle ground, maybe a couple steps more toward Shangri-La. That would be lovely. But it was very fascinating to watch these comments by these presidents who were sitting down in a very casual and friendly environment. You know, they were getting interviewed by Jenna Bush Hager, and they know she's not gonna come at them with hard-hitting questions. This was taking the experience of their office, taking what they think America can be based on what America could, should, and has been, and giving us the correct advice, I guess. Parker, do you have you're the only one. Well, Frank too. Frank's younger than me too. You guys have in America that you can predict what could be coming. I will stay with some of my pessimistic thing. My hopefully pessimistic. That's where I'm going to be falling on this spectrum. I believe that with the right amount of work, we can get things done. Parker, you got about a minute.
Yeah, I largely agree with you. I think I kind of put myself in the same category as optimistically pessimistic. I think that America's younger generations, for the most part, are going to push things into a better direction than we're seeing today. However, I do know that there is also a strong contingent from the other side of that spectrum in the younger generation that may slow that progress. And frankly, that progress is really hard to find with such roadblocks that are being put in place right now.
Now back to more of Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Wow, that sounds game showy to me.
Feels game showy.
This is Wheel of Fortune, isn't it?
It is Wheel.
It is Wheel of Fortune. Very nice tie-in, Parker, because, all right, if you could play on one game show, which game show would you choose? Which game show do you think you could win? 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. I ask you this because tonight you have to watch Wheel of Fortune because Milwaukee is featured. Tonight is dedicated Milwaukee episode, part of Wheel of Fortune's Open Road Week. It's all about Milwaukee. It's going to be repped in several ways throughout the show. I never watched Wheel of Fortune occasionally I would see it back in the day. Now we see it a lot more because that's like dinner time, and sometimes we just throw it on in the background. Ryan Seacrest, he hosts everything. The poor guy doesn't have enough jobs. He needs more money. I feel glad that he's finally getting another chance to do something because the industry had pretty much blackballed Ryan Seacrest. He is omnipresent. But tonight, it's gonna be on the wheel as a destination prize package. It's going to be an in-show destination commercial, and through signage on the set, and it's going to be part of the Wheel Watchers Club email through the Open Road online sweepstakes and via social media promotion. This all because of Visit Milwaukee, and they told the Journal-Sentinel, and the Journal-Sentinel told me, and I'm telling you. So tonight, if you like Wheel of Fortune and you like Milwaukee, even if you're just from Wisconsin, you should be happy that Wisconsin is being featured on this. So the CEO of Visit Milwaukee said in her news release, this is about telling Milwaukee's story on one of the most recognizable stages in television. From our culinary scene to our festivals and iconic brands, this Milwaukee episode brings the very best of our city to millions of viewers. The grand prize for tonight's episode will include a stay at the Pfister Hotel, dining at the Bartolota restaurants, a culinary class at Lakefront Brewery, and entertainment at Potawatomi Casino Hotel. There's also going to be St. Kate, the Arts Hotel. I've stayed there. It's beautiful. VIP access to Summerfest, Milwaukee Theater District outings. There's a lot going on. So, Parker, if you could be on a game show, what game show would you want to be on? What do you think you could win?
Oh, I think Price is Right might be my best bet, because let's be honest, I'm not a very smart guy. I'm not winning Jeopardy.
Okay.
Let's just put
Most
that
of us
out
aren't winning Jeopardy.
there. No, those people are freaks. they're too smart. They're too smart.
They're very
freaks.
smart. They're
Yes.
very smart. I will give them that. Also, here's the thing, though.
I can ballpark a price.
In intellectual, being smart is only part of it. There's also the ability to retain all kind of crazy, useless little facts.
That's true.
There's a
That's good point.
reaction time with hitting the buzzer. So you got to have all of those things come together to win Jeopardy. I have been on 3 game shows. I have
3?
won on 3 game shows.
Batting 1,000.
That is a flex.
Wow.
I'm not going to lie. Frank, what game show would you be on if you could be on a game show? I know he's listening.
I'm here.
He's always.
He said he had questions.
Always working while working.
I know you're always working.
If I would agree with Parker. I think Price is Right. That's like the game show, like as a kid. Like if I was staying over at my grandmother's house, I'd wake up and she'd always have Bob Barker on.
Yes.
And I know Drew Carey's not the
you
same.
could yodel. You could do.
Dude, what was it called? Mountain Climber?
Yeah, the mountain climber or something.
I want to play
Alps?
Plinko. I want to play Plinko
okay.
so bad. Mr. Plow King, let's put Frank on Fear Factor. Yeah, put me in a tub full of snakes.
No thanks.
I
I
would-
see the
I would
commercials
die.
for that new one, and no. Johnny
It's the
Knoxville's
hardest
doing that
pass.
Fear Factor one.
I've got
out.
something, Brian. I got something for you. My
You
sister
do?
was on a game show.
What was she on?
Ooh.
She got to play Bozo Buckets.
Bozo
The grand
buckets.
prize game?
The grand prize game. That's a very Chicago reference,
yes.
Parker. I don't
I
expect
was
you to
gonna
get
say,
that
I have
one.
no idea.
I was at Bozo Circus twice, and I never got to play the grand prize game.
She got to play the grand prize game. It was like a huge honor.
Dude.
It was a very big local honor. My sister got to play it. That's
Because
her
then
big
she
flex.
got to go to the Bozo Drum and pull out a card for all the boys and girls at home. Let's go over to the Bozo Drum.
She did.
Wow.
She got to do the whole thing.
All right.
She even got made fun of by Cookie. It was a huge deal.
Interesting fact. I created the new exhibits at the Museum of Broadcast Communication. If you're ever in Chicago, go check it out. It's a big Johnny Carson exhibit and a big late night